Charlie's Eyes by Emmett Nelson. Part 1. Won't you come and save me? Save me. Feed my eyes, can you sew them shut? The ghost of Lane Staley rang through my thoughts like an orchestra of sounding music. But as the sweat rolled down my cheek, the notes scattered, playing in all the wrong places. Can he save me now? I thought to myself. I opened my eyes in a dizzying frenzy of feelings, something I did not feel very often. I looked down and got lost in her green eyes for another 30 seconds. Did you do it? Cynthia repeated. My tongue turned sand dry. Why was it so dry? So dry it was hard to talk. She quickly solved the great problem that speech was becoming for me as I felt a red pain burn across the left side of my face. I'm going to drag you through my little story of the endless painful mistakes I've learned to call life. John Uller, me, was a man who just kept going in all the wrong places since high school, really. Deep blue rain pours out the white windowsill. I lay in my kingdom of empty water bottles and bad poetry. Then when no inspiration to do anything flutters into my imagination, I put my face into the pillow and scream into the blackness under my eyelids. I start to remember yesterday's events, and Cynthia's words ring through my head like musical notes. Strong, heavy bass notes rattling the insides of my body. Did you do it? Did you do it? Now the notes got louder and made no sense together, with random semitones moving in all directions until it was unbearable. And yes, I did it. I cheated on Charlie Hammers. Charlie Hammers was a girl I'd been dating for over 2 months. The first week was great, but then it turned stale like an open box of cereal. She was a girl I'd been set up with by my coworker Cynthia, and for 2 months, I really was the perfect boyfriend. I'd visit her every day at her job being a Chick-fil-A manager, but there always seemed to be something missing, almost like she didn't really mean the things she said. In the second month of the relationship, I started befriending another coworker, Kathy, a purely platonic relationship. One night, I got home from my job at the local diner, and Charlie was there, inside the house. What was she doing here? Why was she on my couch? How did she get in? For a moment, I just stared at the blue light coming from the window. I slipped in the key to the front door and made 1 step, 2 steps, and there she was, on the couch. "Hi, John," she spoke softly. Her face was in a smile, but it seemed that there was nothing real behind it. She stood up and put her arms around me, with the only light being the glossy blue glow from the TV. "Out late?" she whispered in my ears. I can't quite say what it was, but something in the way she talked just wanted me to rip her arms away from me. "What are you doing here?" I asked, with deep, dull annoyance in my voice. "How'd you even get in?" And now she pulled away just slightly so both her eyes could meet. "Where were you last night?" "You got to my place so late," she said, and now the emptiness in her eyes was dizzying. I looked away from her face to gather my thoughts. I was with Kathy, but we had just gotten food with a completely platonic conversation. Had I really been out that late? I was sure it was no more than a half hour. Now Charlie's hand was on my face. "Answer me," she said. I was with Kathy, a friend at work, and now her face was a concerning red tint. She stood there staring at me for a long while. I thought about how to explain, but now that I really saw her, I just wanted her to go away. "Oh, John, I really thought you were the one for me. For us." And finally, she freed me from the hard tension rising to the back of my neck. She turned and walked out the door. She started as my girlfriend and turned into some wicked creature of nightmares. The next day at Sal's Diner, me and Kathy were cleaning up the kitchen. We happened to run into each other. There was no one in our area. Cynthia was busy cleaning up the bar counter. And now we stared into each other's eyes. So much different than Charlie, so full of life. And what happened, happened. We kissed, and I was finally being lifted from Charlie's weight. I heard a glass cup break on the floor, and the moment was utterly ruined. A face moved quickly from the kitchen window. It was Cynthia. The left side of my face still stung from Cynthia's brutal assault, but I was very glad that Charlie was cut out of the interesting picture my life was becoming. I didn't fully understand what Cynthia was so upset about. I mean, I had kissed another girl, but I really felt like Charlie made things clear. We hadn't even talked in 2 days. I supposed I should have fully broken up with Charlie, but it really didn't feel necessary. And this whole thing with Kathy was so spontaneous, I really couldn't have seen it coming. I can almost see into Cynthia's mind. That dirty cheater! And who knows what Charlie's told her. I felt like I was carrying around some kind of horrible vampire that had been slowly consuming and extracting life from my very veins. Things between me and Kathy made me soar up into the sky, and I would no longer be the trapped and damaged bird I once was. Me and Kathy had a lunch date set today for 1:15 on the weekend. We were much too tired of yesterday's night of Cynthia's constant judgmental stares and glances that could really just rip open your soul. I met her at a large picnic table by the sandwich bar, the sun piercing in its immaculate glow. "So what's up with Cynthia? Why does she have such a big problem with us?" Kathy asked. And here we go. It had not actually occurred to me that I had not even told Kathy about Charlie. "Well, you remember the night we first kissed?" "Yeah, why?" "Well, I was dating her best friend when I met you, and, I said, pausing for a moment to collect my thoughts. She looked down at the table, rubbing her fingers in the grooves of the wood desperately. "Oh, no," she whispered. "I'm the other woman?" No, Kathy, it's really nothing like that," I said desperately. "I think I should go, John. Goodbye." "Wait!" I yelled. And she was gone. As gone as the snow in winter. I slammed my elbows on the table, closing my eyes. That same sickening tension rose to the back of my neck. I looked around me and there was no sign of Charlie. I took slow, deep breaths in and out, and finally I was calm. But who was that on the sidewalk looking in my direction? Who was the slim girl in black hair wearing oh no, a Chick-fil-A uniform? How long had she been watching me? I turned around, started the car, and went to my house. What do I do now? Obviously the problem wasn't simply going away, it was escalating. Apparently it was pretty hard to get rid of Charlie Hammers. Should I call the police? While I was driving down McCormick Avenue, something about the red sun shining through the car windows, soaking deep into my skin like poison, took me back to a time in September 2005. I was just a little kid, no more than 7 years old. Me and Scarlett were home alone. Mom had been gone for so very long. Like really, where was she? When Uno was not enough to calm our nerves, we began to wonder. "Where's Mom? She should be home right now," Scarlett said. "I'm sure she's on her way. She always comes back." "Something just doesn't feel right," she said. Smart girl. "I think we have to call 911, she said. It really was a good idea, though something about calling 911 just made it a little too real. Mom was missing, and we needed to find her. Officer Thompson was a large man who looked as if he'd eaten 2 boxes of donuts this very morning. He asked the standard questions through his thick mustache. "When was the last time you saw her?" "Okay, does she disappear often, and..." "You sure? Okay. Is there anyone else you can stay with?" And just like that, we were on our way to our grandparents' house just off Frying Pan Road. "Are we ever gonna see her again?" Scarlett asked. I held her hand as her head rested on the car window. After that, me and Scarlett grew estranged. I still think of her from time to time. In fact, why hadn't I called her? Do I even remember her number? Sometimes important people, on paper the most important person to you, flesh and blood, leaves you as quickly as dawn to dusk. I stood in front of the eggshell white door to my house. I noticed that same sickening blue glow coming from the TV. What had been on the TV that night? Was she in there? I rubbed my forehead in dismay. I finally had the nerve to pick up the phone and call the police. They arrived within minutes of me sitting on the front steps to my house. 911 called to this address, the officer said. "Yeah, that was me." "What's the situation, sir?" "There's a girl who's broken in before recently, and the TV was on when I got here." "And you're absolutely certain you couldn't have just left the TV on?" asked the officer. "It's the same show, officer, the same show. And I'm telling you, officer, if you knew this girl, well, she's, crazy." "I understand. Well, I'll take a look around. And, what's this girl's name?" "Charlie. Charlie Hammers," I said.